Yeah,
I made a note in the minutes that we had a select board quorum as
Yeah.
of 5:10.
okay, so we'll start recording now in recognition of that. And like I said, the agenda is to formally move to that meeting after this, but for the sake of the record here, we'll start recording now. So Aaron, I'll leave it back to you. We were going over just the high level, where are we with the budget numbers and the tax rates, and then we can jump into the kind of the more detailed questions, if that's cool.
Sure. So at the very highest level, with everything entered in, we're showing a decrease of 1%. Backing back up a bit. Do you want to start with
Could you scroll to Erin? Could you just scroll down underneath the assessments that we just did? And what is that? Oh, total expenditures. 1 minute. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
okay.
Thank you.
So I plugged in, I guess back to the projects question. Charlie, do you want to go there?
Yeah, let's go there first. So this was product and events under highway. I think the specific question that I had was, we've got paving the public service building. Actually, to kind of overall, right now in there, my understanding is we've got paving the public service building lot for 90,000. We've got Hill West Butterback Road match, grants and aid match for Black Falls, and then the balance of the TAP match, which is 75,000 less 31,000 accounting for the stone that we already had in it. So my question, I guess, was, I think we've got the cost of the specific one I'm interested in is the paving the PSB lot under projects and events. And I'm wondering if it's more appropriate to back that out of projects and events and take it out of the infrastructure replacement fund. And that ties to the earlier conversation around what the current status of the infrastructure replacement fund is, given the unreserved fund accounting. So I don't know if you want to review that real quick, Aaron, or not, but
Definitely.
that was kind of the question I had.
Yeah, so in 2017, there was a huge project that was funded by a grant. The expenses landed in 2017, but the revenue didn't come in until 2019. So during the audit of 2018, the auditors made a journal entry to move the expenses to a receivable over, which doesn't show up in this general fund budget because it's expenses and revenues. It doesn't show receivables and liabilities. So then in 2019, that journal entry was reversed, and they reversed it to the infrastructure replacement fund. So it brought our balance of the infrastructure replacement fund year to date to $259,940.44. So having that fund be so much higher, it's reduced our unreserved fund balance because those funds are now allocated to the infrastructure replacement fund. Because we had increases in revenue last year, it worked out so that we ended up still with a positive unreserved fund number, but it's only $409. So what I was proposing that we do to get this fund balance back to a number in line with what we're used to seeing it as, is that we take this entire $152,000 of all of the projects that we're going to be doing, and I put a line over on the revenue side of use to reserve funds of that same 152,000, so that there's basically no effect on the tax rate because we're going to be pulling those funds out of the reserve fund. So, and I was thinking earlier that I would probably like to change this use of reserve funds to be specific to use of infrastructure replacement reserve funds for this for this report so that it's super clear. And it will tie over onto the sheet that I make that shows the reserve fund balances. It will show in this infrastructure replacement fund as a revenue of the amount of the journal entry exactly was 156,749.78. And then it'll show as an expense of 152,000 because we're going to transfer 152 of it over to the general fund to fund those projects.
I realize that that's probably incredibly confusing.
I know.
No,
And
okay, good.
I think that's a good idea. Use of infrastructure reserve funds. Is that what you said?
Yeah,
Infrastructure. I think that's.
Yeah. So that 150, so that 152 basically is what's offsetting the large amount in the
Right.
the projects and events expense one. So there's no net impact. Is everybody okay with us doing it that way? It's gonna, and again, we'll have an explanation of this in the letter in the town report explaining, you know, what the use of those funds is, why it was booked that way. But is everybody understanding?
What's that make the new number, or is that still, that's the whole amount, right?
that's the whole amount of all the
Okay,
projects
okay,
that we have been proposed for next budget.
But that's all of the money that was, all of the revenue, right?
Yeah, it basically, it was 156,000 and change. We're gonna be deducting 152, so we'll still end up with a little bit of a net gain in that reserve fund. But that's not a bad thing either.
No, and you could maybe look at that annual reserve amount appropriation, and if it's a normal thing, I don't know what it was last time, but you could almost debit 4,000 out of that, you know?
We could, and so basically this, where the overall tax rate ended, I basically started with nothing in the reserve account appropriations just to kind of see where it was gonna shake out. And then I started adding, I started with just adding what we had budgeted the year before to see what that did. And I ended up even going a little bit further because for the building capital improvement fund, for if we're planning on doing renovations to the public safety building and it lands into this budget cycle, having a little bit extra in there would be helpful. I also did make a change to the delinquent tax amount. The more I thought about it, I wanted to be a little bit more conservative with that number. We had it at 30. I bumped it up to 45 just for sake of not running things too tightly. And with all of those changes, we're still at that, we're still showing an overall decrease of 1%. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that we had such a higher revenue of last year that was able to carry forward into this year that pretty much offsets all of those expenses of those projects. We also don't have the we don't have the payment any longer of the 2018 highway truck that's paid off. So that was a huge savings. And then, yeah, just having the delinquent tax number be so low because Anita's awesome and because of the way that the budget cycle flows now, where that deadline is going to lie at the end of our actual fiscal year budget cycle rather than calendar year, makes a huge difference.
Charlie, where do you want to go from? I mean, that's all great. Where do you want to go from here? Were you going to look at revenues again, or just talk about other things, or what did you want to do?
So so what I wanted to do was go over that clarification in terms of the public works budget and the reserve fund amount, and have Erin kind of show the tweaks that she had made. I wanted to touch on a couple
Hey, Charlie.
Yeah.
I
go
just
ahead, Mark.
wanted to note that on one of those projects, the Black Falls project, we'll be getting a reimbursement of probably 20, our share is 6,000, but we'll be getting reimbursed like 20,000 or more from like we did for the Reagan Road and North Hill project. But I just don't know when that's going to come in. So
Yeah.
I just want to note that we do have that much money out, but we are going to get reimbursed for some of it, just like we
Yep.
did for Reagan Road. But we haven't got that check yet either. So
Yeah.
um,
So this
just don't
expense
want
is
to
kind of
bank
like,
on.
yeah,
I don't
this
want to bank
expense
on
is
it.
like-
Yeah.
It's like patient capital, basically. It's patient
Yeah.
capital that we're putting somewhere, knowing we'll get it back.
Yep.
The other wild card here, I'll just say with these projects is I'm still digging into like the use of ARPA funds and how we can apply them to both the PSP project if we want to, and the PSP paving. So PSP paving is one where I don't know programs that I've seen that might help cover that, as opposed to like renovations to the building. I think we might have match things we can use ARPA funds for. But if the paving project is one where it's not like we can get a grant and just match it, but we have to pay for it ourselves, that's when we might look to use ARPA funds towards, if they qualify, since we can't leverage them into something larger. So again, we'll budget for it, so we have that capital available. But if we decide to look at the ARPA funds, that could actually draw down this budget figure as well. So we've covered those things. We've covered the tweaks there. I do want to come, well, let's go back to just, since we were talking about the reserve account allocations. Let's go back there and just see if we have any other questions on reserve account allocations. Since we're talking about it, Erin kind of walked through her logic in how the numbers in column I, the FY23 budget were plugged in, but any discussion there or questions or suggested tweaks?
I will yield to the listers, but I think it's bad not to put anything towards reappraisal. Those things are more expensive, and it's little pain over time versus the big pain later, you know?
So what if we knocked $5,000 out of building capital improvement and shove it into listers? Keep it net even, but we do put an allocation into there just to kind of knock on wood.
I agree, Scott. I was kind of wanting to toss a little something in there just for that reason too. Things are always, every day, always a little bit more expensive than we think they're gonna be.
Plus with COVID and all those home sales and stuff like that, it's insane. And yeah, if I were king, I'd make it 8, but I mean, that's okay. Just some.
I was trying to keep round numbers, Scott.
Yeah, 0.
Yeah. I mean, no, we can go to 8 and then lower
Another
that.
3, yeah, another 3,000 isn't gonna add a whole lot to the.
No, I think net.
There. We can bump it to 8, keep this at 55, and we're still at a 1% decrease.
Great. Anything else on reserve account appropriations anybody wants to question, tweak, change?
Did we put anything in machinery replacement? Probably not.
Yes.
We're,
Oh, we did.
27,000.
That's what was in there, right? Or we put more?
There's actually 46,000 already in there.
Oh, there is. Okay.
So Erin, what's on infrastructure replacement? What's that figure gonna change to?
Be around 77.
Oh, is that what it is?
77,
77?
78. Plus
That's what I was-
the
yeah.
amount there.
yeah, plus the
Right.
amount. Yep. Right.
What am I doing?
Conservation
Yeah.
isn't gonna go off next year, right? Because that would be 3 years that we didn't ask for anything, but it's not gonna disappear, right?
We can make sure it doesn't.
Okay. You never know.
Wait, so it's conservation?
Conservation
sorry.
Commission, we don't
I was
ask,
looking at-
we're not,
yeah.
we've got money, so we haven't been asking for anything. This is the 3rd year.
Okay. Cool. Well, if there's nothing else on use of reserve funds or the reserve account appropriations, why don't we pivot and just quickly kind of review how we're handling the water department stipend and the expense shown there, just so again, we're all clear on how that's shaking out
Yeah.
on both sides of the budget.
Yeah, on the revenue side, I was thinking about this, and basically what Mark was saying last time was, whatever we were paying SOS, was it 34,000? And that was based on 14 hours a week. That I would just say, okay, we're gonna cut, we think we can do that, cut it in half and do 7 hours a week, and then make the appropriate the stipend that. And if it goes over, it goes over. For if that's too much, then you make the adjustment down the road, like you said. The real key for that, though, is going to be the guys, Mark and Scott and Aaron, working out a way to so you know. But I
So
think
what
that
line are we looking at? What?
I'm talking about
I'm forgetting that I'm screen sharing and scrolling all over the place, sorry.
on the revenue side, on the revenue sheet, wherever that line is. I think you had 30,000 in there,
Right.
20,000.
It worked out. So I actually took
23,
the
150.
compensation spreadsheet. Is that fine to show on this now? No, I don't think so.
I don't think it is, because we're recording this meeting, and that's something
Yeah.
that's not, yeah. But you can
okay,
explain what you did, though.
I
I
can
think-
walk through it. So at the bottom of our spreadsheet where it's broken out into highway and buildings and grounds, I changed it so that it's now, that has a separate category for water. And I took the 5 hour a week estimate and I did a 5 hour for Mark and 5 hour for Scott's, because it's different, works out differently. And I did it as a percentage of the total hours that they worked. So 40-hour week was 12.5%, 30-hour week was 16.67%. And I figured that based off of all of the category breakdowns, and that worked out to be 23,150. So I think for right now, that's the best we got. And if we're on the low side, then we have no metric with no, even if there was timesheets for the last few weeks, I don't think we would have a solid metric of what it's actually going to take for this year.
I understand that. If that makes sense, I not have a big deal. I think that's high. I think 7 hours and then split between the two of them would be 3.5, and you could figure it that way. But you'll know more, and it's better to well, it's better to have more there than than not
Right.
enough.
Right.
So,
Okay, good. I'm glad you're shaking your head. I was like, uh-oh.
Right.
but it's going to be critical that you have some way to keep track of that.
Yeah,
the
I
other,
think for this year, we can use that we don't have a metric. We literally have to go off of an estimate of what a year is going to look like, but next year we're going to have something to substantiate.
right. And the other thing you need to deal with is how you treat with overtime. Do those water hours count towards overtime or not? And
Yeah.
because that pay rate's going to be different. And again, the water, I don't think we in the water side of the house ever paid for any kind of overtime or anything like that. So you want to make again that the big difference there is that the water money, the water revenue is coming from a subset of the entire town population, not the whole grand list. So
Yep.
you've got to be, it's got to be, really sacred in terms of how that money is being spent. So
Right.
with that, I'll shut up.
Great.
But I think we can justify the less hours for the water department, because like SOS, they weren't in town all the time. So when they got a call, they had to come, it took them longer to get here and stuff. And like today I got a call in the water and I was right here. So I went and took care of it. So it took me a lot less time. So I think that's how we can justify, the less time for the water system and stuff, because we're already in town and working. So when something does come up, we're right here. So
Yep.
that's how we.
So I have it shown as a revenue on the general fund budget. This 23,150 is what basically the water department will be paying the general fund. And then I also show on the labor side, we have the new line that we added for water payroll. So that's separate from any sort of highway payroll and building and grounds payroll. So it's all broken out and visible.
Do you think
Can
there's
I
any
ask?
room? Do you think there's any
Sorry.
room to lower the water department administrative stipend a hair? Combined, you're going to be doing almost 32,000. I mean, just wanted to float that idea.
You're asking lowering
There's
the
two stipends from the
stipend
water
paid,
department, one
yeah.
for the operations and one for administration.
and you're
Stuff that
saying
we've been doing
lower,
for several years.
lower the
That
amount the water department is-
$9,000 figure.
which is shown on the revenue side, not here though, right?
Right,
No,
not in here.
it's this, oh yeah, it is the revenue that the water department pays into the town
Yeah,
to
9,000.
cover the
So you're
office fees for printing bills and all of that stuff.
Suggesting that we could, essentially, we could allow for a reduction in the water department budget for administrative costs. Like the water budget would then say, we're not gonna have that great of an administrative cost.
Yeah, that number was probably a lot more squishy than, say, the number that you've got in there now for actually operations. It was, you know.
Well, I'd say as we're gonna be monitoring things going forward this year, why don't we leave that number? It might be a little high, but it's at parity with what it's been, right? And then try to track these things better. And then
Okay.
maybe next year, if we can bring that down, let's bring it down.
Yeah, that one will be a real bugger because it was based on a kind of a guess on how much time was spent generating the bills, taking the payments, doing
Yeah.
the bookkeeping and all that kind of stuff. So,
But we could
Which
also
all
try to
the time's
track,
been reduced with our cash management system, so I don't disagree that that number could come down a bit.
Could we bring it down to 7,500?
I also
Is that
don't
too much of
disagree
a-
with Charlie that we should probably
I mean, if we're gonna be
be
asking
able to
the,
quantify it better, like I could do a crunch and see
I mean, if we
exactly
dropped
what
it, if we dropped it 8,000, I mean, I don't see like $1,000 isn't gonna kill us, right?
No.
But I mean, if we wanted to this year, actually, if we're gonna have the public works guys track their time better, even if it's writing down logs, what they're doing, we can also ask the office staff to track their time a little bit better. And that way come into next year, kind of looking really at actual hard numbers.
Yeah, that wouldn't be too difficult.
But we can flag that as a place to potentially pull back.
So should
Later.
we lower it to
Yeah.
8,000, Charlie?
Well, I guess the other thing I'm thinking of is if a touchy thing here with the amount of money, as Scott pointed out, like the touchy thing here is going to be to make sure that like the general fund money is going towards just water stuff, which we're going to insure, right? I just wonder the optics of also dropping the administrative fees and having the voters be like, wait a second, like they're giving us, we're paying less for their admin costs and we're potentially on that other end of this, on the other side of the ledger, at risk of
Yeah,
having general fund.
I think Aaron's point though about, you're managing the system differently from that perspective, that you've
Yeah.
got some economies there would
Okay.
be a good answer. And that, on the other side of that, you want to avoid the perception that you're using the water system as a
Cash cow.
cash cow. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if you want, I mean,
Just,
would
I
folks be
wanted to
o-
float that idea. I
Yeah.
thought about it after the last meeting. I'm not hard over one way or the other.
would folks be okay dropping it to 8? I mean, it's
Fine.
kind of a token at least, to put in an acknowledgement of, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's drop that down to 8. And then Emily, did you have a question that you wanted to jump in on the water stuff?
No, I think I got clarification of what the hang up is.
Okay, great. And we'll look at the water budget as soon as we're done with the municipal budget. So that there's clarity there. Great. So those are all the things I had flagged for discussion and review as far as the budget goes before the budget committee votes to approve and adopt.
What about the wastewater fund, Charlie? You said something about
Yeah, that's more of a functional
a select,
question.
okay, okay.
Well, it's more just for Aaron, right? So I think outside of the municipal budget, you know, are we going to want to vote to adopt a reserve fund for the ARPA funds? Because we're not showing them here because of that weirdness of having to show a massive amount of income one year and then an expenditure in a different calendar year, because it's not general fund dollars. So are we going to be creating a reserve account?
We should,
Does
yeah.
that sound okay?
Yes,
The
please.
the ARPA
great.
funds and the wastewater, right,
Then
fund?
we'll put that on the warning when we get to that. Okay, so then I guess, are there any other questions, things to review, things that the budget committee wants to look at or discuss before the budget committee adopts this budget?
I'm sure you covered this, but children distractions. The miscellaneous, what can you just give a quick breakdown of why that's so up and down?
Is that under income?
Where are we?
The revenue side,
Sorry?
on the revenue side?
Yeah, where was it? Here, I'm pointing at my screen like you can see that. Miscellaneous, just because it's,
This line
Yeah,
26 right here.
yes, thank you, line 26.
No
Yeah, why
problem. I made a note for myself. This isn't press ready yet. That's as the numbers sit, but that actually has FEMA reimbursement dollars making up the majority of that for our actual year to date. But I'm going to be breaking that out into its own line and deleting
Okay.
my note before it goes to press.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it looks weird when like we're continually budgeting a few $1,000 and there's like a $250
Yeah.
actual. It's like, wait a second. Can we get that surprise income again this year, please? No. Actually, don't say that out loud, right? Knock on wood. We don't want FEMA
Yeah,
income.
careful what you wish for.
Yeah. Cool. Then I guess I should never knock on anything in my house with dogs here. I apologize for that. Makes things go crazy. Cool. Then I guess I would entertain a motion from the budget
But why is
committee.
that reading 0 now?
Because I just realized that 23,000 was still 20 on the revenue side, but it should have moved. Oh, I know why. Because I should have been populating when we changed this back to 8. Or changed it from 0 to 8.
Right.
I needed to update the tax number over here to make it click. Still a reduction. Do we
But that
want to
number-
make it 1 or move something else to make it back to 1?
I would leave that to the select board, but I mean,
I mean,
I'd
a
be-
flat,
I was just wondering why it went to 0.
I
It's
mean,
not, yeah,
technically it's a decrease, but I'd say this year, not an increase, given everything. I think it's
Exactly.
pretty damn good.
Yep.
it's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
so I would be prepared to make a motion to recommend to the select board that they adopt a budget of $1,332,383 as specified in the draft budget.
I'll second that.
Great. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion on the table, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any
I'm
opposed?
gonna abstain from
Yep.
voting on a budget.
So, any abstain or any opposed? No opposed, any abstentions? We have 1 abstention from Mark. So the motion carries and the budget committee has adopted the budget. And just quickly, just so I can get the numbers right. So the budget is 1,332,338.
383.
I'm sorry, 383, and then of that, we're gonna have to raise
870.
870,
262, 85.
85, and taxes and non-tax revenue is 461,711. Great. Awesome. Well, appreciation to the budget committee for the work putting this together. That's always a fun task at the end of the year and never enough time to do it. So if there's no
Make a motion
Other
to
business?
adjourn the budget committee.
exactly, thank you, Scott. We have a second on the motion.
I'll
to adjourn the
second.
budget committee. We have a second from Sue. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll vote. All those in favor of adjourning the budget committee, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. The motion carries. Thank you, budget committee. Aaron, if you want to stay on for a few minutes just to review the water budget, that would be great.
Surely.
Great job, Aaron. Thank you.
So we'll call the select board meeting to order at 5:55 PM. Are there any changes to be made to the agenda? All right, hearing no changes to be made to the agenda, what we'll do is we'll move right into the water. Actually, we'll just do the municipal budget. Actually, what's the preference? Do folks want to see the water budget first? Or do they want to just approve the municipal budget first? Because we're going to want to adopt both budgets tonight. The water budget, if we don't approve that, I guess that could have a bearing on the municipal budget if we change stuff.
I think we should do the water budget first.
Okay, great. So Aaron, if you want to pull up the water budget, do you just want to walk through this real quickly as to the numbers that are plugged in here?
Sure thing. I gave poor Mark about 15 minutes in an email to review this. So this is just my absolute rough shot. And
Can you make it a little bit bigger?
how's that?
Good.
So I think that I kept the numbers the same as the year before in every category except for, I just dropped this stipend to 8 to match the other budget. The 23,150 for water operations. I added in a training amount because we didn't previously have anything budgeted for that. I dropped contracted services. So Simon's contract was $38,040 for a year's worth. So I basically, did I do 45,000 minus 38,040? Yeah, I basically backed that out. So I don't, that number is tough because you, with like new services and things like that, and the
Well,
the water audit thing with the fire hydrants, that the flow testing, that's got 1 more year. So that's going to be in there again. So this is everything above what Simon was. Do you think that should be higher, Mark?
no, I think that should cover it.
Okay.
7,500. Yeah, that
Yeah.
should cover it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think everything else stayed. I just copied the numbers from the year before because they seem reasonable.
Equipment, we might want to go up a little bit on that. I've got some actuators and stuff I have to replace at the plant, which I'm not sure if they're going to be pretty pricey. I've got at least 3 of those, and some of the equipment's getting older, so I've got to probably replace some stuff, some equipment. So maybe we could go up to maybe 4,000 there, 4 or 5 on water equipment.
I think this part of the 6137 is that hydrant right? Do we need to account? We talked about accounting for more, another, like a hydrant a year or something, because they are so expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was around 3,000 for the hydrant or something, 32.
So
Yeah,
should we bump that up even a little bit higher to account for that?
yeah, probably.
Wasn't that something that
renting
we
out a-
talked about, when we had one of those meetings with Simon? Wasn't that one of the suggestions that we budgeted for a hydrant each year?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe we should take that to 7 or 8 even.
Yeah, yeah, probably just to be safe. I think the reasoning for that, it was that we don't have them all come at once and we can spread things out.
Right. Building maintenance, I don't know if that 2,500 is really necessary. I've never seen those building
Well,
maintenance.
No, we've got to do some maintenance on the buildings. We got to do some
Okay.
work on the outside that hasn't been done, so we
Okay.
better leave that there. Yeah.
So where it sits as this, it still shows our revenue expected to be a little bit higher than expenses, which is always where that one likes to
Yeah.
hang, which is
I know
nice.
those water fees, around 800. What was that's every quarter. What was the bill for the first quarter? Wasn't it around $200 or something? That
Yeah, I
water
think it was like 200, around 200.
Yeah, it was around 200 and something. So that was per quarter. So
Right.
want to make sure we have enough in there for that.
Should we bump it to 1,000 then?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, the rest of that looks all right.
Great. Any questions on the water department budget as presented? I just want to clarify, I don't think anything that was tweaked there would have impacted the municipal budget. We didn't change any of that.
No.
So if there are no questions on the water department budget, we can vote to approve. Do we have a motion to approve the water department budget? And I think Mark's going to abstain from this, just to be clear. So, Aaron, if you want to scroll to the bottom, we'll get a budget number. So the budget is 113,397.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve the water budget in the amount of 113,397.
Great. So we have a motion from Suzanne to approve the water budget in the amount of $113,397. We have a second. Okay, I will second that motion. So we have a motion made and seconded. Are there any discussion before we vote?
Can
Okay.
I get clarification on line 25?
That's a fee that the state charges. They charge us so much per gallon of water that we use. The state, we have to pay the state a fee. So every month I have a monthly report of how much water we use per month. And then every quarter they'll send us a bill on how much. So it's like $250 per quarter water fee to the state. So we have to pay for the water that we send out. So that's what that's for.
Was that in column H, though it's 0? I can't see what the top of column H says. Like what the header is.
That's year to date
that's
actual.
Fiscal year to date actual. Yeah, that one,
I don't think we've received the bill yet, have we?
We did.
Yeah.
It's definitely, let me see.
Or was that bill for, we probably haven't gotten the bill for 22 yet because that bill was for the last quarter of 21, I believe.
But that should be in this budget. Let me find what account that went to.
So just to clarify, Mark, that's billed quarterly, so we should actually be showing 2 quarters of payment there.
Correct.
Okay, I thought that it was billed annually and we just hadn't paid it yet.
What is that to rural water? Do you remember, Mark? Or Vermont Environmental Conservation, is it?
Vermont Rural Water should be membership dues.
I found it.
Should be the state of Vermont.
0099. Water miscellaneous.
That's that where it went.
It's booking down there for some reason. I'll move those and set
Okay.
them to go up to the fees. So last quarter was actually 120.70,
Oh, okay.
and the one before was 145. So we're usually under $200, but
Oh, okay. Okay.
yep. So it was a total of 120.70 and 145.25. So 265.95. I'll move, so that actual column will change, but it won't change the budget number.
Okay.
All right, any other discussion on the motion? Excuse me.
Charlie,
Yes,
I'm sorry, I have Scott on the phone. Could you give me the figure for the total budget? It was 1 million something 383.
1,332,383.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, any other discussion on the motion to adopt the water department budget of 113,397? All right, not hearing any further discussion, we'll call the question. All those in favor of adoption of the budget, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Bye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I'll abstain.
We have 1 abstention from Mark. Great. Thanks. We've adopted the water department budget. Great. So let's move back to the municipal budget. And what we'd be seeking there is a motion to adopt the recommendation of the budget committee. I think folks heard hopefully a fair amount of the discussion earlier with the budget committee on some of the main points. We'll also draft a state of the town letter that will cover all these details and kind of the high points, explaining some of the things. We'll get rolling on that next week and circulate that to everybody for review, especially looking back to Aaron for some clarifications again on things, but that will hopefully help at least, answer a lot of the questions, the big ones that come out of this, and help with some, I don't want to call them talking points, but at least helping explain some of these things. So if people in town ask, why was this, that? So I guess at this point, we'd be entertaining a motion to adopt the budget committee recommendation for a total municipal budget of $1,332,383.
I'll make a motion to adopt the municipal budget of $1,332,383.
Great, thanks, Suzanne. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Great, thanks, Emily. Is there any further discussion on the budget? Okay, not hearing any further discussion, we'll call the question. All those in favor of adopting the municipal budget in the total of $1,332,383, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I'll abstain.
We've got one abstention from Mark. Great.
Charlie,
Thanks.
can I ask a question?
Of course, go ahead, Sue.
What was the, if you could scroll a little bit more, what was the tax rate gonna be? On the bottom, on the
5299.
5299.
Great. So, Aaron, if I could just ask you a favor, if you could just email static copies, so don't email like a link to the actual Google Doc, but just email static copies of the water budget, the municipal budget, and the compensation spreadsheet to all members of the select board. That would be great.
I'll do it right now.
That way folks can kind of keep looking at this over time and have copies for your records too. So the other two things that we need to do tonight, which hopefully we can do fairly quickly. One is actually, do you want to stop screen sharing for a second, Aaron?
Yep.
Thanks. And Aaron, seriously, thank you for all your work on this. The past 2 years have been really smooth getting this done, and the online platform, well, it's not always that great. I think we've found a really, efficient way to move through the budgets. So, kudos.
I love it.
So the first thing up is just the charter. So we had the hearing earlier this week, which was a blast, by Aaron.
Great.
Sorry. And so coming out of the hearing, there were some suggested potential amendments to the charter. The goal tonight is for the board to, in light of the comments, kind of adopt the proposed version that will advance to the voters. And so what I'd like to do is screen share and bring up a copy of what I'm thinking that might be. So can everybody see my screen? Sorry, I need to hop off for one quick second. I really apologize for this. Hello? Hi. I apologize about that. I had a really important question: what kind of popsicles to get Austin? And when you're sick, popsicles are really important. Governance charter, town of Montgomery. So right here is essentially, I think, based on the general consensus of comments that I had notes from the meeting, I think this is what we probably might want to advance to the voters. What this is it's a stripped down version of the governance charter that was floated at the meeting. This retains the first two provisions, statement of purpose and the general law application. So the statement of purpose basically is saying why this is established. General law application is just saying that, except when changed by this charter, we operate under the laws of the state. And then there's the local option tax provision. And then the separability, if one of these falls, they don't all fall standard. And then amendment to this charter shall be provided for by law. So this makes it essentially much more simple. The comments we got were that if we have all the other stuff in there, it could potentially tie our hands in the future if we wanted to change something that would require us to go back and do a charter amendment instead of just following normal state law. Because again, the charter has to go through the legislature as well, which takes time and effort and can be a pain. So this is stripped down to kind of address those concerns. And then as far as the local option tax, the discussion points at the meeting were around whether we could establish a sunset provision in here, as well as a provision of repeal by, as well as or in place of a provision for repeal by Australian ballot. And the feedback that we got was basically that the cleanest and most direct way to do it was just to maintain this here, that it'll go to the sewer reserve fund. So directing the payment towards that to apply with debt obligations. Oops, sorry. So again, the money is only to go to debt obligations. So essentially when that loan sunsets, the use of the fund goes away in terms of we can't use it, but we would still need to repeal it by Australian ballot vote. And that kind of keeps things in line with how state process goes. So I think this is something that's as straightforward as we can be with it. And it's clear enough to get past the legislature as far as how it works. Any questions on the draft?
I think that looks a lot better to me, just this downsized version, and I feel more comfortable just sending this, doing this part instead of the whole thing.
Right. Might lead to less questions too about other sections that, even though they were essentially just clarifying things we do anyway in that way, it could just lead to less questions around like the whole thing. Any other questions on the draft before us? Well, if there's no other questions, then I guess what I would entertain is a motion to advance the amended proposed charter to the voters as reviewed here at the meeting dated January 27th.
I'll make that motion.
Great,
I'll second.
great. Thanks, Suzanne. Any other discussion on the motion? All right, hearing no other discussion, we'll call the question. All those in favor of approving the amended charter to be advanced, the amended charter to be advanced to the voters, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion approved 4-0. Last item that we need to do this evening is just the adoption of the of the warning and then setting the public hearing dates. So I'm going to screen share, stop screen sharing this, and I'm going to start screen sharing this. Excuse me. So this is the draft warning. I've reviewed this with Liz for accuracy on voters. Or oh, go ahead.
Can you
Mark.
make it bigger, Charlie?
Yeah. Yep.
Please. Thank you.
Yep. That better?
Yes, that's better. Thanks.
So warning, March 1st, 2020. Top part is just what we're doing, where we're doing it, how we're doing it. So vote by Australian ballot when the polls are open. The permissive eligibility to go to Australian ballot. So Article 1 is to elect the officers that we need to elect. We've reviewed this multiple times and we're hopefully fairly almost all the way confident that we got it right. Every year this makes me nervous that we're going to forget somebody, but these are the offices that are up for election this year. And I do believe that we have consent of candidate forms in for all of them, so that's good. Article 2. Article 2 is just to authorize Aaron to collect current taxes. This was on there last year, same thing. Article 3, this is the fiscal year budget. So I'm going to enter the numbers. Great. Sorry, I just needed to put those in now that we've adopted them. So Article 3 is the budget question. Shall the voters accept the fiscal year budget?
Charlie, don't
Yes.
forget your cents on the budget number.
Oh, because that was rounded up, wasn't it?
I think so.
Okay, I will. Well, I think the motion technically was 131,332,383. So for now, I'll flag that though, and I will tweak that if everyone's cool with that.
Okay.
Yep.
Counting pennies.
But I'll make sure that's accurate. That's the budget question. Article 4, authorize, this is the new truck. So shall the town vote to authorize the select board to borrow up to $100,000 for a term of 3 years to purchase a new international CV 515 single axle truck with snowplow, wing, and sander to replace the 550 Ford truck. Snowplow is 2 words. I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Do we put
Yep.
2016 554 truck or just 550 truck.
A new, the 2016. Yep, that better?
Yeah, I think so.
Snowplow is a compound word.
Snowplow
Is
is a
it?
compound word? Okay,
It
Oh, it
is.
is. Oh, okay, yeah.
great. All right, so this is that article for the new truck. Shall the voters approve a 1.5 cent increase to the tax rate to Conservation Reserve Fund? This has been.
Can you go back to that for 1 second? Sorry, Charlie.
Yeah, no, of course. Yep. Go ahead, Emily.
Do we know what year, like, is it a 2022, 2023? Do we need to put that in there? Does it matter?
It's a 2022.
Okay. Yeah, clarity is always good. Cool. So that's the truck.
Thank you.
Conservation Reserve Fund, that's been there.
Do we
since
put on there
2000.
with 7-year warranty too, or no? I think that might be enough. I
We've
mean,
never had-
that includes a
never-
7-year warranty too.
Yeah, we've never had any warranty. We went back
No.
and dug up the language for the old trucks and we never put the warranty language in.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but that should be fine the way it
Yeah.
is there. Yeah.
We tried to just mirror this as to how we done it before. The description is the thing that changes, but I think being really descriptive with the year and the kind of truck. I think
Yeah.
that's great. Yep, that's good.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the truck. So we did 5, 6. This is to adjust the library board of trustees seats. It was a request they made. So we put that on there. So Article 7. So last year, so usually from the floor, we'll vote to approve sums of money towards the listers, IRS rates, that kind of stuff. Last year, we didn't do any of this by Australian ballot because there was no changes. This year, the listers have requested a change, and so we did put a separate article in here just because of that change. So you're not seeing an article that's like, do you vote to pay IRS rates to blah, 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 blah. Because if you look back in old warnings from floor meetings, you'll see all this stuff broken out. What Liz and I talked about was because it's a change, we're going to put that one as an article. The rest of them, if they're just moving forward the same way as they were last year with no articles, we're not going to list them. And that's why they're not here. Article 8 is, shall the voters of Montgomery adopt a town charter? I should probably capitalize that. A town charter as proposed and approved by the select board. So a copy is available come request. Again, there's going to be a copy in each voting booth. So when they go in with the ballot, there'll be a copy of the charter there for them to review in the ballot booth. And then Article 9, shall the voters establish an ARPA reserve fund, subject to 24 VSA 284 to hold and assist in the dispersal of funds received from the American Rescue Plan Act. So we have 9 articles. Anyone want me to circle back, scroll up? I see a question from Sue, so I'll recognize Sue. Yeah, you have a question?
Yeah, Charlie, were you also going to do an article on establishing the wastewater fund?
So the wastewater fund was actually established by the voters last year. That article did pass.
Right. Oh, okay. Yes, it did. You're right. You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Sorry.
That's okay. Emily, I thought I saw you come off mute too. So if you got a question, feel free to jump in.
With regard to Article 8, is there any clarification that we need to put in there that we're not changing something that previously exists, but rather we're putting something into place because we didn't have this?
Yeah, the way the language would be different there, it would be, shall the voters of Montgomery amend the town charter as proposed? Adopt the town charter, I think is the appropriate language since we're adopting a new one. I didn't want to put too much more in there as to why we were doing it or like the intent behind it, because I think that starts to cloud the language of the warning like legally as terms of what it, but the idea would be that any voter hopefully coming in and voting has done at least the minimum, homework to understand what they're voting on. And there'll be a copy of the town charter again in the voting booth. So if they happen to walk in totally cold, not knowing what's going on, and they look at their ballot and they see something about a town charter, there'll be a copy of it pinned like right to the thing in front of them.
Right. I'm just thinking about the person that hasn't done any research and does not necessarily follow any of this, saying why, like, what's different about this,
Yeah, no, I get your concern. I just
thinking,
don't,
thinking that we had one in place previously. So I understand that language of adopting a town charter, meaning that it is new. I feel like people would assume as a town that we've had a town charter.
yeah, no, it's a good point. So you're suggesting we should say, shall the voters of Montgomery adopt the new town charter? I mean, with that,
Nope,
that good?
because I think that makes it sound like we're replacing an old one. I'm not proposing this with a solution. I'm just proposing that
yeah,
I think that this is a little bit confusing. I don't know if there's somehow to like make it really clear, like prior to this document, like we did not have this in place, or so, maybe
Charlie,
that
could
just
you-
gets.
Yeah,
Could you say amend and adopt?
well, we're not amending, we're
Right.
adopting, because we never had one. Yeah, I get your like concern around this, Emily, and I think again, like my concern is how do we make sure that we're framing all this as required by statute legally, like
Yes.
what can we have in the warning, what can we not? And I guess, I think as far as what's in the warning goes, unless we were ready to like adopt the new town charter, I can find out whether or not, like, a copy of the charter has to be in the booth. I don't know if we can have like anything associated with that that's like context, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know if we can have something like a paragraph above it, or you know what I'm saying, like this is
Like the
this is-
rationale.
yeah, exactly. So I'd have to look into see what we're legally allowed to have in the booth. Because there is an element of like, we can have the charter, but we can't have anything that would be like,
Yeah, we can't have anything that's persuasive. And I guess maybe that information just comes at the informational meetings that we'll hold in advance.
Oh,
And
yeah.
hopefully enough people,
Yeah.
are attending those and making themselves aware of what it is that they're actually voting on. Before they just, say yes or no without
Yeah.
reason.
no, that's my hope
Okay.
too. But again, I don't know what the solution is for the person that, walks in off the street having not paid attention to anything and sees this. It is a concern, but I don't, again. Excuse me. Any other questions on the warning? I'm going to circle back to anything or clarify anything, or any articles anybody wants to float to be added.
This is just sort of superficial as far as punctuating the ends of the article sentences.
Oh yeah, are they not all?
You have a question mark on some, and then some you don't have a period or a question mark.
Oh yeah, okay, so I think. Okay, I think we don't.
I mean, they're all
have-
technically questions, but
They are, but I don't think they're supposed to have question marks, so
I think it's a
that-
period. I would think it's a period.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think you're right. Thank you, Suzanne, for picking
And
that
I
up.
think it was Article 7 and 8 or 6. Yeah, 7 and 9 that didn't have anything yet.
Great. Thanks for pointing that out, guys. All right, well, if there's no other discussion on the warning, I guess what we would do is we'd entertain a motion to adopt the as reviewed or as written, I guess.
I'll make a motion to adopt the warning for town meeting day as written.
Great, thanks, Suzanne. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Great, thanks, Emily. Is there any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, we can vote. All those in favor of adopting the warning for town meeting 2022 as written, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion carries and the warnings adopt. All we got to do now is just fix the hearing dates. So by way of reference, last year we did a hearing at 10 a.m. the Saturday before, and then we did the information evening meeting on the Monday before. So that would be February 26th at 10 a.m. and Monday evening, February 28th at 6 p.m. Anybody want to suggest something else, or do we want to stick with that?
Say them again?
So if we did the Saturday before and the Monday before, that would be
Okay.
Saturday, the 26th. And typically on Saturday, we do them in the morning, so 10 a.m. And then Monday would be the 28th, and typically those are at 6 p.m. in the evening.
Charlie, they'd be by Zoom.
Yes, and that would be by Zoom. Does that sound good to folks?
That sounds good to me.
That's
All right.
fine with me.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, if that's good with people, I will just highlight that we're doing them here, and we'll include that. And we will warn the meetings for those dates and times. So at this point, unless there's any other business, a motion to adjourn would be in order.
Do we do the picture? Did we decide on the picture?
Oh, shit, we have not decided on the picture. You don't have to decide that for another like week or two, I think. Let me find out exactly what, when, actually I have that here. We need to have that figured out February 11th. So we will have one more meeting before the book. So between now and our next regular meeting, think about who might be good for the cover. But don't say it out loud on the recorded Zoom because it's a secret.
Somebody asked me about that last night at bowling, and I think you know who it is.
Yeah. So anyway, keep that in mind for next meeting. We will tackle that then. But with that, a motion to adjourn is will be entertained if someone's got one.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Great. Is there a second?
Second.
Great. Thanks, Suzanne. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion carries and the meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everybody. That was
Well,
good.
Feel better,
Aye.
Charlie. Yeah.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.